Hi, everybody. This is Stephen Kelley. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show. This is TruthCat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. It is August 27th, 2020. It just turned 6 o'clock where I'm sitting. I want to welcome you, and I want to tell you that those of you that don't stick around more than so many minutes, please, if you have anything to do with this movement, the Occupy the Getty movement, you're going to want to try to stay for the whole thing, because this is going to be a big show. And there's going to be a lot of difficult information that we're going to need to try to cover tonight. All right, so basically the title of tonight's show is Occupy the Getty, a Bigger Picture. So basically what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to go into areas that we haven't gone into before. And I'm going to, let's just say this, there's been a little bit of a paradigm shift. And this is important, and I know you guys feel it. I know you realize that there's things going on out there, but the farther we go into this future, the more we get into stuff that just doesn't make a lot of sense. And that's why I'm going to try my best to explain not only what's going on to you, but a little bit more about the nature of our reality and why it can be so confusing sometimes, especially when it comes to important things like this. So, where do we start? First of all, I want to thank all of you that have worked so hard to basically get the Occupy the Getty hashtag and issue, information, and story out there in front of the public. It's working really well. If you're paying any attention at all, you'll know that in the popular vernacular, Occupy the Getty is lit. So I heard. I think I could have got a little more of that. Did you hear me? I said it was lit. All right, that's better. Thank you. The bottom line is, yes, we are going viral on many fronts, and we are growing, and we are still regulated to a very tiny whisper, and yet it's a very powerful whisper that is causing much larger reverberations in the world dialogue. We are certainly affecting the world. And yes, more and more people are reading the book, asking for the book, and I'm proud to say that the book will be out in Audible, thanks to one of you, who's basically, as far as I know, paid for the entire project out of his pocket. Now, I, of course, did not do the reading. He hired a voice actor to do that, somebody that I thought sounded pretty good. And so I'm really looking forward to that coming out, and I think that's going to help spread the word even faster. But I do want to ask those of you that are responsible for getting the message out, of course, to continue exactly what you're doing. I want to let you know that, of course, that what you have done already had a major impact, but at the same time, don't let up. Keep looking for more ways to be creative and to spread it, because it's working. So, we're also going to talk, of course, about the astral and the Jedi aspect of this battle, which, of course, is very important. So next to sending out the book, I also have to mention that quite a few people are seeing the light. They're wanting to join the cause and devote their life to the cause and their souls, if you will, and become Jedi. And I'm very pleased to say that a lot of the people that have been joining me recently, joining us, are already very skilled in the astral. And certainly, I think the best thing that's happening is that they're already used to fighting, but now they'll be joining us. So even if you're a freelancer, you certainly have a lot to offer our mission. But as we address the rallies and the popular movement in the street to save our children, and the people that are meeting and trying to bring this pedophile issue to the forefront, which of course we are getting a lot of the credit for, QAnon certainly is getting a lot of the credit for, I have to examine that whole issue, but those rallies are not going unnoticed by the establishment. And even though we know that our message and our mission is not being addressed directly at many of these events, we know that this is certainly a step in the right direction, and if anything, it does involve that service to others transition, that's change from being selfish to trying to put yourself out there for someone else, someone that you don't know. That in itself is a very big deal. People demonstrating in the streets for an unknown victim is a very, very big deal. It's a very big transition. They're not complaining about a personal thing. Part of what the message that we're going to try to convey tonight does involve this psychological shift involving the service to others concept. And we're going to find that a lot of the scripture, or a lot of what we've been taught already, is certainly going to apply to our mission, and it's also going to, because of our mission, be reinterpreted a little bit. Not reinterpreted, but let's just say the context may seem a little more appropriate. So make no mistake that, first of all, before I get into it, that every one of you that have gotten involved, from the person making the web page, to the person making the post on Facebook, to the person on TikTok, to the person on Twitter, to the person liking it, to the person sharing the book with someone, telling friends about it, the simplest thing that you can do, even the person, of course, that invested the money in making this book available on Audible, all of these things that you're doing are not going unnoticed. And certainly I think you all know that you're all playing a vital role, and you've earned a very sacred honor for the work that you've done. And you also have to remember that when you consider that the enemy that we're dealing with and the issue that we're dealing with is far, far older than recorded history, you have to understand that your influence and your impact is like a lightning bolt in time that completely changes the timeline for the universe. So this is an incredibly wonderful thing to be involved in. But at the same time, all of us are learning, and none of us really know exactly what this is going to have, what this is going to bring us. And certainly, as I've told you, this is Pandora's box. And the idea of opening Pandora's box is to take it all at once and to be exposed to it all at once. And of course, those of you that are certainly Jedi, or prepared to deal things that are of a different reality, then certainly you may have an advantage over the person that is going to be ignorant to these things. But unfortunately, we don't have the luxury of that not happening by itself very soon. So that, of course, brings us to the more negative aspects of what's going on. But before I get into that, I want to remind everybody that part of this growth and this, shall we say, enlightenment process also requires the understanding of concepts and realities, physical realities and non-physical realities, and the ability for these things to conflict. As I've said many times, our enemy has conflicting motives. And basically, that's like saying that anything that you can do to an enemy is going to have as much positive effect as it does a negative effect. And I just want to remind people that the nature of our electromagnetic spectrum is it travels in two directions. And the nature of our reality, of course, is that we do have the same thing happening with a male and female energy. So we have to understand that no matter what action we take, it will have an equal reaction. Okay? Okay. So, this is why it's important that we consider this when we think about actions that we are taking or we plan to undertake, or how we can plan actions that we may desire to undertake in order to take this into consideration. So, let's look at situations where this duality must be considered. First of all, as I said with Scripture, as I've said so many times before, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood. Obviously, this has not changed. But when we are in the astral and we are doing something that's non-physical, at the same time we are in other densities where the result of our actions is very physical, is very real. Now, well, let's just say this. We deal with what we think are humans very often in this real world that are not humans. They aren't actually the enemy, the reptilian Draco. Now, unfortunately, we've had the benefit of being able to focus on the human aspects of this battle. But tonight, unfortunately, or for better or for worse, I'm just going to say we need to focus a little bit more on the non-human aspect of this battle. But at the same time, we also need to recognize the human aspects of our very non-human enemy. For instance, believe it or not, I have experience with at least two individuals that I perceive to be adult men who turned out to be reptilian, shape-shifting reptilian. Now, to anybody looking at these people, touching them, they would appear to be just like you or I, human, completely biological, no different. A human. A weird human, but a human. Now, so what does that mean? Okay, well, let's just try to analyze that really quick. I could just say that if we know that in a fourth density, a three density, third density reality from the fourth density is nothing more than a program or a hologram, a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional item, then perhaps the reality that you're perceiving that this is a human is a construct from the fourth density. Now, of course, this seems to be a violation of our principle because as far as we're concerned, that is a true human. There really is no different. We can't tell because certainly we do not have the ability, or we do not pretend to have the ability, to look into that person and see if their soul is proper, kosher, if they're earthborn, or if they're a walk-in, or what they are. Now, as far as the lizards are concerned, I'm going to say that aside from pedophiles, aside from humans, aside from CIA, NSA, Caver types, Rothschild types, Donald Trump types, we're going to say right now that the Draco reptilian species, which are just one of three major non-human type entities that we consider an enemy, this is our number one target right now, and our intention is to eliminate all of them as a kind of a genocide. Now, immediately, this is going to collide with this duality that we are dealing with, at least in this reality. I do not believe that applies on the higher levels of density. But if we have a Draco, and that Draco is in a human format here in the third level of density, we have to treat that thing like a human. We're compelled to. Unless, of course, they do something abusive that would require something a little less loving, perhaps. But the bottom line is that we have this dilemma, conundrum, and we're going to continue having it the further we go on this path. Donald Trump is a perfect example. I've basically had to come to the conclusion that, yes, Donald Trump was a pedophile, abused small children, many, possibly even killed at least one of them. And aside from all the other crimes he may be involved in, this particular type of crime or this activity, I believe, is something that he has probably let go of over the years since he has aged. He probably has put these things in the past. No, I'm not saying that that's a good thing, but I'm saying that that's something we probably should recognize. At the same time, I think I should also advise people to recognize that he probably doesn't practice satanic blood rituals like so many of these other elites do. A Rothschild or a Hillary Clinton or Jeffrey Epstein or whoever. I don't personally think that that was his thing. I think that he's, as Masons go, I think he's kind of a loser in every respect. So, what does that mean? Part of the process is going to involve us being able to embrace both sides. Now, as far as being a qualified leader, I don't think he is qualified, but I believe that we're going to have to accept anything that he has done positive first, and we're going to have to achieve an uneasy alliance. And this is going to be important. In other words, in order for us to deal with what's coming, which I will talk about very quickly, we're going to need to come together. We're going to need to do something very similar to what the New World Order is trying to accomplish, except for the genocide, and that is to bring about a structure that basically is going to allow all of the humans to work together cohesively. Why is this important? Now, unlike a staged Project Bluebeam type of situation, we actually have a different type of situation. Not the least of which is being caused by our actions. Now, those of you that are doing the Jedi thing, you probably know that we've been very busy, and you probably know that we haven't been alone. We're getting a lot of help, and there's a lot more of us. Now, when I say help, I'm talking about very large numbers of entities, non-human, off-planet entities of every shape and description. Good guys, near as I can tell, but the only reason they're able to get involved is because of what we've done and what we've opened, the doors that we've opened, and the consciousness that we've raised. Okay? That's that keyboard warrior stuff. The more the world focuses on this place, the more it becomes real and visible and three-dimensional for these entities that are from these other densities. So, now, one thing that's important to understand, though, is that, and I can't really stress this enough, but the purpose of collecting these children obviously serves for the benefit of collecting the louche, adrenochrome, etc. But at the same time, they're also food. Much the same way a farmer might keep cattle or chickens or something like that. It works very much the same way. Now, a lot of times people will say something stupid like, it would be impossible to feed that many children. Now, obviously, a normal human doesn't think about things like this, but you have to understand that the children are the food for the other children. The children do not last very long down there. When I say there's 100,000 children down there, you have to understand that the turnover is very, very high. Some of these children will barely last a day. This is very common. And what's left over of these children will be fed to the other children, much the same way that the animal carcasses are ground up and fed to the dogs and cats. So that's just one of the realities. The other reality is that these lizards, whether they are human or whether they are not human, or temporarily human or whatever, are definitely consuming in many, many ways, and they are certainly involved in the torture. Now, as I've said before, there is an exodus. There is a certain amount of these entities leaving, getting off planet. We're going to talk about that. But at the same time, there are more coming. And this is a problem. And for every one of them out there that is terrified of what we're doing and sees the writing on the wall, there's another one that is doing the same thing we're doing and is having rallies denouncing our efforts to destroy them. So they want to fight. Why would they want to fight? Of course they want to fight. We've been bringing it to them for thousands of years and beyond. There has been an agreement that the leaders of the cattle will keep the cattle in check, and we will not attack the masters that created us. Well, that time is over, and we're doing just that. Now, one of the reasons, of course, that they were so terrified about ever trying to challenge these entities would be that the entities would basically go to war with us on the surface, which is something that we're terrified about because there are so many of them and because they are very fearsome and certainly have better technology than we do. But here's the thing, we have more of us. There's 7 billion of us roughly in the world, going on 8 billion, and there's only something like 250 million of them. Now, I know that sounds incredibly daunting, but the problem is this. There's so many of them here on the earth, and there's so many of them in different places off the earth, off the planet. And also there's different times and there's different densities, different dimensions. Excuse me. And of course, these are accessed by portals. And portals are illegal. And they're one of the reasons why these entities have become such a problem. Because they, first of all, are not supposed to have them. And second of all, they're not supposed to be using them. There's only supposed to be so many of these things living here. And the fact that they're using these portals to bring more of them here is reason enough for their annihilation. And this is why the Creator put us here at this time. Now, at the same time, strategically, these portals are certainly very, very important. And this is why the Getty is important. We know, I know, perhaps we'll find more, but we know of at least 7 of these portals that we have discovered at the Getty. Now, we also know that these portals, much like they portray in the television and the movies, can be used for shuffling around nuclear devices. And as I've mentioned before, this is one of the reasons why it was so difficult for us to locate the nuclear device that we knew was there. Well, it turns out, of course, that the room that the device is located in also is a room that has 6 portals, and these portals can be used for shuffling the said nuclear device around to make it extremely difficult to know where it is at any given time. So, this one thing alone should help you understand why the Getty is so important. Okay. Obviously, this is a hub. We know that this hub has tunnels that travel all over the country, that all over the world connect in various different levels. But it's also a hub that allows different densities and dimensions and timelines to be accessed by these entities. So, the purpose of us occupying the Getty before we occupy any of these other bases is because we need to secure these portals. We need to stop them from sending in reinforcements. We need to control what goes in and out. And we certainly have to make sure that nobody is sending any nuclear bombs through those things in our direction. Small things like that. So you can understand why it's of extreme importance that we seize this location first. Now, I know I've told you that when we do this, when we seize the crown, we seize the throne, that for the most part, the humans are going to give up. The whole issue of violence is something that we're going to try to cover tonight, but assuming that these humans do give up, we do still have to deal with a large contingent of the reptiles that will fight. And obviously, our intention is to commit genocide upon these entities, which means that they're not just going to run away from us and wait for us to catch them and kill them. No, they're going to do everything in their power to defend themselves. Now, at the same time, whether or not these entities can be spared remains to be seen. And at the same time, we do have to be wary of deception, but we know that this is our goal, and we know that for the most part, they will choose the path that will certainly allow us to dispatch them with no remorse. But here's the thing. They will come up to the surface. They will do exactly that which our leaders have been afraid of for so many epochs. They will come up and they will give it everything they got. And of course, it's going to be very important at that time that we are coordinated, that we are all working together, and that we can all use our resources and our willpower to eliminate them. Now, certainly, you've heard this before, that this so-called alien menace is going to arise where everybody is going to need to get together and stop fighting. Well, guess what? That's actually true. Now, certainly, from our standpoint, those of us that are working at the mission of occupying the Getty, I've told you that when we're done with the human aspect, that we'll be getting into the next phase, which is the reptiles. We're almost there, guys. You should be happy. I got to get you ready for that part now. The humans will fall in line soon, as long as you keep doing what you're doing. But like I said, the reptiles are paying attention, and many of them are making a lot of threats right now. And those threats are that they will actually bring it to us on the surface. And certainly we hope that by that time we're ready. But here's the other thing that's very disturbing. More children are being abducted, more children are being abused, and more children are being tortured and eaten because of what we're doing. Okay? Now, obviously, this is something that we all know, that we all should consider is a natural result. It's almost like when you're closing in on your enemy, does your enemy start executing his prisoners before you get there? Does that mean you're going to stop closing in on your enemy? There's not a lot we can do about this desperate act, but at the same time, this is why it's even more important that we get this job done as quick as possible, because every day that goes by, more and more children are being snatched, and these things are happening very fast. So I don't want to say that because of your actions that more children are suffering, but because of your actions more children are suffering, and you need to keep doing it. This is that horrible duality. I'm going to tell you guys about a dream I had last night, and I know that this has something to do with it, because actually this is just a part of my dream, but I was walking along and there were very small animals, like baby mice, baby kittens, and baby snakes. Interesting that you would look at those items, because they all are related. But the first thing I looked at was the mice, and I picked up the mice. I thought, oh, this is cute, I've got to try to save these mice. And I saw the snake, and I picked up the snake, and I said, oh, I've got to save this snake too. But then I realized I would have to feed the mice to the snake, so I didn't want to do that. And then I saw a kitten very much like Iris, my little black and white kitten with the one eye, and then I saw these cats had the same condition. They were little sickly babies just born, mostly black with white on them. And I saw one, and I wanted to pick it up. And I noticed there were several of them. And my first thought was I had to walk out where I was stepping. And I realized there was no way I could save these animals. I could only hold so many. I could only care for so many. I can only devote so much time to each one of them. And some of these animals might conflict with each other. So who do I choose? Ultimately, I couldn't choose any. They would slip out of my hands. And I had to move forward. And this is the same reoccurring situation when we go under the Getty and we go in these hallways, and there's row after row of rooms with children inside. But you need to get all the way down the hallway. You can't stop at each door. You can't stop at any of the doors. You can't help any of these children. You have to go forward. You have to complete the battle. You have to get to the end of the hall, because they know that your compassion is going to stop you, and you're going to help the first child that you run across that's going to need that help. And you're never going to make it down that hall, and you're never going to complete the mission. It's a very unfortunate reality that we have to deal with, like many of the very unfortunate realities that we're going to have to deal with in order to get to where we're going. And again, these are all very distasteful things that I need these people to consider. So hopefully, when you understand the difficulty in completing the mission and saving every life, you'll understand a little bit more about how God works. For those people that say, why does this happen? Well, it happens for the same reason why we can't change it, because it is our job to change it. Our ability to change it is only so good. But we have no choice. We have to work with what we've got. And we have to get down to the end of that hall and open that door and keep fighting and driving away the enemy and stopping this process. But we can't pick up every little kitten along the way. Now, in order for us to carry this off under any circumstance is going to require a lot of cooperation from all the various players. And ego, certainly, let alone greed, which are the two major staples of the Satanist persona, are going to be our biggest challenges to deal with. So we have to understand that we have to be able to deal with those challenges. Now, certainly, Donald Trump is a great example of this type of persona. Whether or not he is an actual practicing Satanist, it's obvious to see his greedy streak and his ego. So addressing Donald Trump is certainly a great way of illustrating how one might address any world leader or any person of great ego that is unwilling to accept your ideas. So if I've said before, first, what's important is you have to recognize the good stuff. You've got to start with that. Always. Before you try to cause change. What we're trying to do is cause change. We're trying to cause a major change, a complete psychological change of the entire world, all at once in a very short period of time for the purposes of saving the children and defeating the enemy, the unhuman enemy. So how are we going to do this? Well, we know we're up against ego and we know we're up against greed. So we're going to need to embrace these things. We're going to need to embrace our enemy. As distasteful as that sounds. The purpose of this is we need our enemy to embrace us. Now, obviously, in this situation, ego, pride, and greed, certainly, hunger for power, are driving these people. Now, we do have limits, certainly. Anti-human behavior, killing of other humans, molestation of children, these sort of things, certainly will not be allowed under any circumstances. However, in order to affect the level of cooperation and the unity that we need as quick as possible to achieve this mission, we're going to have to allow our enemies to continue doing what they're doing, with exception of raping children, of course, killing people. And certainly theft is something that has to stop. But the point is that we cannot attack our enemy's ego, and we cannot really attack our enemy's greed. We want to effect gradual changes in the entire population of the world, and yet we know that many of these changes will actually take a generation or two, at least one, to be removed. At least one lifetime, let's just say that. Most of the people alive today will struggle with what's coming in the future, but again, in the grand scheme of things, that's irrelevant. Those of us that are alive today should be happy to be involved. So bottom line is, the lizards are going to come to the surface. And unless we have full cooperation, and we are fighting in a combined effort, and we are sharing our technology, working together, and we all have that loving intent for each other, we won't win. And certainly the biggest obstacle to our defeating this particular enemy is the very fact that so much of our mind and our intention and our resources go into fighting each other, which certainly is, let's just say, self-genocidal. Obviously, our enemy loves this because certainly, as I've said, there are three of these entities, the reptiles, the Anunnaki, and the Grey. Each of them will have to be dealt with in order, but the primary enemy species on this earth right now is, of course, the Draco, the reptiles. And those are the ones that we're dealing with right now. And those are the ones that we expect are going to bring it to us here very soon. Now, I don't want to pretend I know how we're going to deal with this, but I will tell you that the last straw for these entities will probably involve the actual occupation of the Getty. So in other words, once we capture the power over the human earthly world through this, the structure will not really change. We're going to require that, aside from the pedophilia and the evil, that the overall philosophy of the entity becomes, and when I say entity, I mean power structure that runs the world, becomes that of a generous philosophy as opposed to the greedy philosophy that it's working under now, service to others versus service to self. This we will achieve, hopefully, with the power that we get from the Getty and with the knowledge and with the programming that's taking place right now with this desire to save the children and at the same time fight against this common enemy, which is going to become an issue very quickly. So in other words, it's a catch-22 type situation. When we do actually occupy the Getty, the ultimate enemy will come at us with everything, but at the same time, we will have technology and resources and skills and momentum that I believe will allow us to defeat the enemy. So in other words, when we open Pandora's box, all the secrets of the world will be released, all the technology, all the prisoners, all the children, all the evil, all the victims, all the spirits, all the souls of those victims that have gone before. Trust me, they're keeping souls down there. The enemy itself will also probably come out too. Now, I can tell you that at the Getty, that's probably not so much of an issue because obviously the Jedi have been focused on that area for quite some time now, and if we've had any victories, it's been there. But in order for this species to survive, and in order for us to, well, let's just put it this way, in order for us to achieve our goals, we need to cleanse every single one of these bunkers out. And more than likely, they are all connected. I really doubt there's too many of these things that are, well, sitting by themselves. The ones that are, I believe, a lot of them have been destroyed. The ones that are floating in the ocean or sitting on the bottom of the ocean, that kind of thing. But the point is that it's like gophers in a gopher hole. We're going into the holes chasing the gophers. The gophers are going to have to come to the surface because they're going to run out of hole. They're going to run out of bunker. Eventually, they have to come to the surface, one way or the other. Could be through the water, could be through somewhere on the land. But if they want to retaliate, and certainly they will retaliate, because I think they're smart enough to know that we're not going to stop here at the Earth. We will go after them, whether or not we use their portals to do that or otherwise, or some other technology. Either way, there isn't too many places for those guys to hide, because you've got to remember the rest of the universe has been a victim of these species, so they really don't have anywhere to go. They don't have any friends. They're sort of like the Chinese Communist Party right now. You know, that's another problem for me, is that when I look at all of the humans out there, of the various power structures. I know that there are obviously some that are very bad. Certainly the Chinese Communist Party is a good, well, they represent all that's evil with mankind right now. And I believe there is a Lilith connection. Yeah, Lilith, we're going to come after you. I kind of think Lilith is somewhere connected with China. But when we go underground, we'll find these things out. In other words, if we focus on the bases and we do go underground and we root out every single one of these and we clear them out just like police clear out rooms in a building, eventually we'll know where all the bases are, and we'll know where the entrances are, and we'll know who's involved in what. We'll know all the various secrets. We'll know who's guilty of what. So if it turns out that, as I suspect, there's a huge base that is going to be the last one we deal with, the boss, if you will, under K2, we'll find out. But it's going to start at the Getty. So the Getty will be our victory, and at the same time, it will be the opening of a much larger challenge. Now, I also want to remind everybody that, first of all, judgment is a big issue. And if we look at those around us that are evil and are certainly responsible for many of the crimes that we're fighting today, we're going to get upset when we feel like they have not seen justice. And what we need to understand in the grand scheme of things is that time, of course, is insignificant. And we think of a human as doing a certain length of time in confinement as being a proper punishment, this sort of thing. But the reality is that a criminal or someone that has done something that is, let's just say, less than loving to another human, has acquired great wealth at the expense of others. We don't correct that person by returning that wealth to the people that it was taken from. We don't punish that person. We don't do anything. If anything, we're going to need to let that continue, and we're going to let God sort it out, because ultimately what that person is doing on that path is what that person is going to pay for. What we're trying to do is get that person to alter their path, make adjustments in their path, change in a positive way. And we're trying to get everybody to do that. And certainly all of us have to deviate from our path in some way in order to achieve that. So again, where do we get off judging how that works, or how much deviation someone has to make, or when the deviation is too great to be allowed to be made? If it's not made, that's on the person. Now, I was thinking about the idea of give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. And we like to think that that is taxes. Pay Caesar's taxes, don't complain. Obey his authority. The reality, I think, the message, at least for us, especially Jedi, is that Caesar is a metaphor, a symbol for any person of stature, power, distinction, wealth, that kind of thing. We don't correct that person by removing their wealth, removing their power, interfering with what it is that they're doing on their path. That's not our job. Obviously, if the person is being anti-human, that's a different story. But the point is that in order for us to work together immediately, we're going to have many distasteful, strange bedfellows. And ultimately, the very action of that happening and the changes that we're all going through, the transition that we're certainly going through, the paradigm shift that's taking place is going to cause this to change, to blossom, to coalesce into something useful. So in other words, if we can overcome our prejudice, and if we can overcome every single polarity issue that we have, to focus on something beyond ourselves, if we can all work together for a certain cause, the negative behavior that we perceive from this other person will become adjusted, and will be adjusted either through the process by themselves, or because the success of what we're doing will, by the very nature, change everything. In other words, everything's going to improve along the way. I think when we're done fighting, that we're going to see that what we once perceived as a horrible enemy is somebody that we'll probably be celebrating our success with at another time. So that, again, is very difficult. Now, obviously, pedophiles, and what I told you, I'm not talking about pedophiles changing. Certainly Donald Trump has issues, but at the same time, if we focus on punishing him, we're never going to be able to fight these damn aliens. So we have to stop doing that. And we're going to have to stop doing that for a huge amount of people. And this is going to be extremely hard to do. Now, I'm not saying that's going to go on forever. We will have to make adjustments in how we deal with things, and just like we expect the people that we're granting these exceptions to will make adjustments accordingly also. But at the same time, we're going to never forgive them of these crimes, but it's not our job to forgive them. Our job is to save the world. Forgiveness is in the eyes of their creator. So is their punishment, ultimately. Just like the way we treat these entities, these reptiles, and the others that we're going to be dispatching. It's the same thing. Ultimately, they all end up in the lake of fire. Now, that's not forever. They do come out on the other side. And that's a good thing. But it needs to be done. And it is being done. So, now, of course, obviously, I am expecting that I'm going to have to continue driving this boat for at least while I'm alive. And I don't have a problem with that, but at the same time I realize that it's not my job to take everyone else's job. In other words, a political structure, with some exceptions of course, any kind of control structure is going to have to continue and be able to absorb changes, of course. But at the same time, we can't completely destroy it from the get-go. We are going to have to take it over, but it'll be working much the same way that Magna Carta works. In other words, under the Magna Carta, a large portion, 20% of all the assets or equity of all of the signers on the Magna Carta belong to the Crown. Now, in this situation, you're going to have a Crown figure, and I'm going to assume that, unfortunately, because it's just going to have to be that way for the next few years until I'm dead. Well, the bottom line is I'm going to own everything. At the same time, I'm not going to own anything. What does that mean? That means that everything that you've got, you're going to keep. We're not taking anything from anybody. We're not going to go out and pillage. We're not going to take all their loot. The Queen, of course, that's hard to say. The issue of repatriation and returning things that were stolen to people is obviously going to be a big issue. Certainly Greece wants to see their marbles returned. But the point is there will be, by the time we get to that point, there will be so much available being released that compensation will be simple, and the amount that people feel that they have lost will be very easily overshadowed. But at the same time, we're going to do everything we can not to foster any sense of greed, because certainly by any means that we have available, we're going to have to ensure that that system never comes back. Anyway, I just want to say that it's not the easiest thing for me for a couple of reasons. A, I always knew, well, I've known for a while, ever since we were making some major inroads at Getty, I knew that the next step was going to be having to deal with these lizards. I'd like to think that it's not going to be a big deal, but certainly they're not going to give up that easily, and they've always been kind of like the big deal. I mean, we haven't gotten to the Anunnaki or anything like that. I don't expect much of a big deal with dealing with the Greys, but certainly these lizards are they're pretty strong. But we could do this. So we're going to be going through some times that are going to seem kind of confusing. They're going to also be very exhilarating, and at the same time very tiring, exhausting. Obviously, we're having major amounts of solar activity because of the fluctuations in the magnetic field. I suspect that all of this is typical for a transition type enlightening golden period that we're obviously entering into. The very fact that we've got so many people all over the world starting to exponentially rise up on behalf of the children that are being eaten by these entities. We're accomplishing great things. We're accomplishing great things very fast. But we're going to have many highs and many lows. And we haven't even seen the depths of the lows that we have in front of us. But we have to be brave, and we have to be willing to continue even harder no matter what. And we certainly can't back off just because of a response from our enemy. So I guess knowing that, or not knowing that children are being tortured even more out of anger because they don't like what we're doing, we should have known that was going to happen. But we can't allow that to affect us either. That was one of the hardest things that I had to get through to you tonight. And the other thing was this idea that we have to start embracing our enemies. As humans, we don't have a choice. We're going to have to give unto Caesar that which is Caesar. We're going to have to let our enemies keep the shit that they got. We're going to try to impress upon them to cease with the negative behavior, and obviously we're not going to tolerate certain behaviors. Obviously, anything that goes against our mission of saving the children is certainly not going to be tolerated. But at the same time, we're going to have to do a lot of forgiving, and we're going to have a lot of tolerance, and we're going to have a lot of compassion, and we're going to have superhuman amounts of compassion. And at the same time, we have to have superhuman amounts of violence, and we have to have the ability to step through the bodies, the ability to walk past the children in need so that we can get to the enemy that's waiting at the end of the hall. We need to be able to do all these things. We need to be able to do all these hard things. And that's really what it's all about tonight. And that's why it's important that you help me out and you try to share this, because this is probably the most important thing that we've got to do right now with respect to trying to advance the mission. We've already achieved great things, and we need to continue to push and do everything that we're doing. But at the same time, we have to prepare ourselves for the reaction of our actions and the suffering that's going to come as a result of the anger that we're stirring in an enemy that has been allowed to get away with this for so long. And we need to show our leaders that as a population that we're ready to take this enemy on, because they're not really leaders. Remember, they are bought and paid for and put there by the enemy to give you the feeling of normalcy and control. But when we rise up, we're going to need to embrace them, and they're going to need to fall behind us, and they're going to need to put the resources that they have control of at our disposal and coordinate with us, and they need to honor us. And when I say us, I mean me. In other words, to accomplish this mission, our enemies, human, that we intend to save, that we intend to embrace for the purposes of defeating the greater enemy, need to be honored in all senses of the word. And in return, they need to honor our cause, they need to honor our efforts, they need to honor the mission, and they need to honor me as long as I'm around until we complete this mission. And as long as they do that, we will honor them. And all of you must do the same. And that does not mean they are allowed to continue doing evil or able to pull shit behind our back. And we're going to know that they will, because we're going to know that, like I said at the beginning of the show, that reality goes in both directions. So if we do something good, something bad will happen. If we do something bad, something good will happen. We must need to achieve this balance. We must need to understand that where we're going, we won't be tied to this. So when we're having to do great violence and at the same time have great compassion, we need to understand that is the nature of this reality that we're forced to fight on. It's just the way it is. And the universe is expecting us to do it, and at the same time they're behind us all the way, and every step of the way more of the universe joins us. And I just want to say that paradise is something that we can't even conceive, and yet we're closer now than we've been in 25 million years. But at the same time, we're going to have to go through a lot of really awful crap. So if you want to help out, become a Jedi, obviously. Certainly, you need to have a relationship with Jesus. It's a great time to do that. And I'm going to leave it at that, but I'm just going to remind you, if you guys want to contribute, I'm just going to say thank you to all the people who have stepped up, because certainly a lot of people, and I'm not talking about people sending me money, but I'm talking about like the guy doing the book, or people working on the web pages, and people. You're not just giving it your time, you're giving it your heart and money out of your pocket. And you're really doing everything I said to do. You're starting to get the initiative, the motivation, the creativity to make great things happen without my leadership, which is fantastic. Because it's that kind of work that means that we will be successful and that this thing will continue long after I'm gone. Okay, so it's really great stuff. Again, I want to thank all of you for all your hard work. And just be advised that great things are coming, but at the same time, some really horrible shit is coming too. All right, so persevere, don't give up, be strong, and just keep doing what you're doing. It's the most important thing I can tell you right now is keep doing what you're doing. You're doing great, do it even more. Okay, with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a break. When you come back, we'll take some calls. And just remind you guys, I know she's going to tell you on the break, but in case it doesn't make it to the YouTube, if you want to help out, the PayPal is StephenKelley714@gmail.com. That's for the PayPal. And if you want the book, you have to send me an email, law17gun@aol.com. And if you want to become a Jedi, same thing. And if you need healing, same thing. Either way, you're going to want to send me your photograph and your complete full name. And then I can do healing, tell me what the problem is. And if you want to be a Jedi, I'm going to send you a letter. And then you follow those instructions and take it from there. Okay? With that, we're going to go ahead and take a break. See you guys on the flip side. All right, everybody, welcome back. First of all, look, a couple of you just dropped off, but we had a whole bunch of people here listening, which is pretty exciting. And I also want to mention that we do also have the other station, Ascension Radio listeners that are listening to us via the simulcast. So I want to welcome all them tonight and give a shout out to Ascension Radio. We're happy to have you here, and I know one of you sent me an email a little while ago and said, yes, I'm from Ascension Radio. I heard you on there. So that was always fun. It's nice to hear from people who say, yeah, I hear you on Ascension Radio. So yeah, if you guys want to do that, say, yeah, listen, that'd be nice to know how many of you are out there. But otherwise, we're going to probably not go too much further, but we will go ahead and make an effort here to take some calls. And I think I'm going to go ahead and try to bring in the Bobster. I know how much you now. Now Bob's famous for talking mad shit. Okay, Bob, I know you're not even ready, but we're going to call you anyway. We're going to, hopefully he won't talk some mad shit, because I know that's all. He's learned. I think he's learning the lesson now that we need to focus on the Getty. RD, of course, I'm going to see what you have to say, because I know. Listen to you with your radio going when you pick up the phone. I swear, dude. Muting's cool, but just don't be listening to me talking when you're picking up the call, man. God. Look at you, Bob. You're getting so...
I'm watching Ivanka. Excuse me.
Oh, fuck me, Ivanka.
She looks so stunning tonight. It's
all right,
amazing.
come on, turn off the damn TV, okay? Come on, have some respect.
Off. I mean, the audio's off.
Turn the video off, too. That's even worse. The video's projecting with all those frequencies and signals.
No, I don't have TV. I don't watch regular TV. It's all on those computer screens.
Stop.
Anyways, what a great show. It's just hard for me not to get a little revenge. Let Hillary Clinton run around.
You're all about revenge, but the Lord saith, revenge is mine, right? It's up to it's not our job, man. I mean, look at it this way. We're so busy trying to stop them from doing bad that we haven't even allowed them to do all the bad that they want to do. In other words, it's like, you know what I mean? I mean, for all we know, they're going to do some really horrible stuff that's God's going to got some really bad punishment. We're like, oh, wow, they didn't even get to finish all the horrible things they're supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like kind of like the way the Buddhists look at it.
Oh, kind of like COVID, locking down.
No, don't talk about the COVID shit. Fuck you with the COVID.
But let me tell you about tonight.
I don't know. Whatever.
No,
don't be.
There's no one wearing masks. There's at least 1,500. No one's wearing masks, and everybody's close together. So that's a nice big FU to Fauci and Bricks.
At the same time, there's people out there marching in the streets saying end the pedophilia and stuff, huh? And they're blaming Hollywood.
And then there was stuff last night in Wisconsin that the RNC didn't really address.
No. Well, let's not talk. No politics now. If you're not, all right, I'm going to tell you right now, and this applies to every person and every issue. If it doesn't involve the Getty, me, or this issue, forget it. Okay, in other words, that means that everybody out there that's talking right now, every single one of them, because right now it's hip to talk about the child issue. And all the big wigs that are trying to make money, the talking heads, the Kerry Cassidy's, etc., they're all saying the same stuff we're saying. But what are they not saying? Getty.
Okay.
And you know what else they're not saying? Stephen Kelley. Okay? Well, you cannot talk about Getty without getting to me, period. Because I am the only link. I am the source of all things Getty.
Well, and ultimately, we have to educate all these other people.
Well, we educate them. We're already doing that. But the point I'm trying to say right now is that you need to install a filter. And if you are listening to some idiot talk and they're not saying Getty, you either educate that person or you tune them out. Because 99.9% of all the idiots talking out there are not saying Getty, and they need to be tuned out because they're the enemy.
Okay, so
Hey,
here's
turn that audio off, man. Jeez.
there's no audio
You got
going on.
feedback coming from you, dude.
Oh, you know what it is? It's my fan. Hold
Well,
on. Let me get the
look at
fan
you.
off. Okay, so like here's what I say. Oh, let me turn this one off. Okay, here's what I say about the Getty. The kids, okay, that's the most horrible thing, but we all know about that. But every human being, rich, the poorest, or whatever, if you have a treasure, things that you like, you might hide them in your top drawer. If you're a little bit more sophisticated, you may have a safe deposit box at a bank. But what if you're a Vatican or
Hey, don't be giving me this Vatican shit. Now, come on now.
the London, or how about the financial?
How about the Getty? What part of Getty?
Well, that's where they're going. That's why they're putting everything in the
best vault.
The best vault with the nuclear door.
Yeah, and close access to portals, so they can move this shit through the portals and take it off world if they have to. Also, huh?
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's very good. So yeah.
Okay, well, listen, this is why we need to occupy the Getty, because we need to access those damn portals, because we can't have any more of those fuckers coming here. And at the same time, we can't allow the ones that are here to escape. Okay? Wow. This is war. This is war, man. Seize the bridge. Seize the gate. Seize the walls to the city. Circle the wagons. All that shit. This is war, right? Right, RD? It's fucking war.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, Bob, do me a favor. When you get done, delete the conversation or something, because you guys just called me in, which is cool. But did you? Okay. But listen, real quick,
right.
What was good about the show tonight is it's going to be a good one to replay a few times for us to let it sink in, because it's the outpouring I was talking about. Remember when I said there's been access denied, escape routes, you go for the supply line? That's what we're seeing right now. Is there's been, a cutoff or a lacking of their resources.
There is. All right. It's not just resources, it's wealth, it's technology, it's humans.
I meant the children.
The children, right? And
okay. And the thing is, the really great part of the show, every point I've been thinking about for a couple of weeks now, you covered it all so well, but the analogy of what we're dealing with China right now was golden, because those that we won't have any mercy for, that makes me wish I could buy a Ma Deuce, is going to come out, and you're going to have something big to deal with them. They're going to be nasty. And I agree with you I've been waiting for this show for a year, so I'm stoked. That's it.
Yeah. Well, it's big time. It's big time. 4D meets 3D is coming. Okay.
Well, yeah, it's here. It's here.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple ways this could happen. We're going to go into a transition anyway, where we're all in the same damn field, and at the same time, go ahead and mute Kathleen. At the same time, you have to deal with the fact that they can go through those damn portals and they can look like us. Whoa, Kathleen, damn. Had to stop that. I can unmute when I'm ready, but oy. Yeah, anyway, Kathleen, you need to turn down your volume a little bit, I think. I'm pretty sure it's, let me just turn mine down a little bit so it's not so harsh on my ears. Yeah, mine's way up there. I'm trying not to be too sensitive, but hey, come on now. I'm trying to produce this stuff. Oy. The harsh reality here is that we're causing more children to get eaten in retaliation for our efforts.
Yeah,
it's all your fault, Kathleen. It's all your fault.
Well,
kids are dying because of you.
Sorry. In general, I'm seeing what I think is.
Oh wow, we have extra more listeners. Damn.
They're going to alternatives. In other words, whether it's the kids staying home from school or whatever, they've been denied some access, and they're changing it up. That's kind of what I'm seeing. So we have to be kind of extra. I mean, watch your children.
I hear what you're saying. Security-wise, yes, but I gotta say, just from the local insight, they do get them out of the system. Okay, so I got to give Trump a little credit. He does seem to be closing this loophole. He is screwing with Child Protective Services. These guys are very much involved. There's a lot of kids in the system, in the loopholes, that
Oh
are getting
yeah,
funneled right into this stuff. And it only makes sense because they got to take them off the damn records. And the other way they can do that, of course, is import. And certainly these are loopholes and things that need to be closed. But we had to know this was going to happen. We can only hope that they don't destroy things. We can only hope that they don't kill the children. We can only hope that they don't bring in too many. We got to move so fast because we got to get these damn portals shut. We got to get control of this stuff. We need to control this all-important hub. And at the same time, and this is number one, we have to get all the people in the world to cooperate as best as possible, including all the leaders. And we have to get all the people in the world that have beef with other people to settle their beef and get over it and focus in a whole nother direction. These are all incredibly hard issues. Where do we go on? I mean, my God, the things we got to get them used to, the lizards and stuff like that, it's going to be rough as all hell. But
yeah. It's like I said a while back. I keep seeing this damn outpouring, and is as much good end as I do see and perceive. And you covered it really well. Here comes the nasty.
Yeah, the nasty's coming. The nasty was always there. I mean, see, that's
Yeah.
Jedi.
Yes. The outpouring.
Jedi have to deal with the nasty. Okay, we've been dealing with nasty for a long time. Well, we do it in our sleep, so we don't really pay much attention.
Yeah.
But it's gonna. The
It's
very
coming
fact the fact that we've been so damn effective, they're going to bring the nasty to everybody else.
We talked about this before when we talked about when you go underground, you always have an alternate way out. Well, they've had an alternate way out without coming to the surface. It's being denied. So, like I said, at some point they're going to come up, and that's going to be the only way out. And I think that's what we're looking at.
Well, it's life and death. It's life and death.
They're going to come. It's going to be like some fucking sci-fi movie, so buckle up.
Yeah, it is. They're going to be a fantasy movie, magic. We're going to be Jedis. Are going to be, doing their thing. But
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see.
I still have positive thoughts that we'll get the help we need.
Yeah, but see, this is the whole thing with the Getty. It's like,
but we're still going to have to do it. We still have to do it.
Yeah, we got to do it. No doubt about it. But the thing is that if we can, the big test will first be the Getty. Okay, just like everything else.
Absolutely.
The Getty's key, everything. In other words, when the forces that be open the door, lay down and bow, hand it over, nothing is hidden, and everything stops, then we're there. Yeah. Then it starts. Then it ripples through the entire world, and it changes. Then we will have the power, and that feeling, that control will have to go through the entire world. But at the same time,
won't we get any help from?
Fuck the off-world. The off-world are helping, don't you get it? But they're not making any noise. So if you were paying attention, you would have heard me telling you that they're doing it right now. The point is that if I didn't get interrupted and make Bob maybe forget, is that we have to forgive them. We can't be like savage Bobs running around wanting revenge. Just because there's a bunch of bodies of children that they just got through eating, and just because there's a bunch of canned baby all over the place, we can't get sick like we're a bunch of liberating Americans in a Nazi death camp or something and go around shooting all the officers. We can't do that. The bottom line is, if this is going to come off, if they're going to roll out the door and give us, if they're going to stop doing everything they're doing and hand over complete power to the world to us, it's only going to come under the assumption that we, A, are not going to kill them, and B, not take their stuff. Now, if their stuff involves children killing equipment and stuff that involves the need to have dead children, no, they lose that stuff. But as far as guys that just got through having baby for breakfast, it doesn't matter. We're going to have to overlook that in the grand scheme of things because we have bigger fish to fry. And we have to remember, and this is number one, is that, again, it's not our job. It's God's job. Okay? It's God's job. The punishment that they're going to get is much worse than anything we can give them. And if anything, it's not our job to even stop them from accruing the bad shit, the punishment that they're going to get. Okay? It's just the way it is. In other words, we're going to be violent. Yes, we're going to kill, but we're only going to kill those that need to be killed, not because we've taken them prisoner and we can kill them, but because they're trying to kill us. All right? If they're not cooperating to the point where they're trying to kill us or other people, yes, they get killed. But if we stop them doing this and they're not killed, we incarcerate them. We don't kill people we don't need to kill. But when it comes to lizards and stuff, they die. They die. That's just the way it is. They get thrown into the lake of fire. They'll come out better on the other side.
Yeah, or let them. Here's the portal. Go back to where you came from. Get the hell out.
They're not going to let them go, man. Come on.
I know. I know.
Be fighting them somewhere else.
I know. Well, they don't have. It's like you said about China. I don't think they have too much somewhere else to go.
Let me put it this way, dude. The way time works is that once we toss these things into the lake of fire, the time that they actually spend there to the time that they come out and is like nothing. Okay. In other words, we'll still be fighting. We'll still be fighting battle. They'll be getting out of the lake of fire, and we'll still be fighting, and they'll be fighting on our side after that. In fact, I'll tell you, there's a couple of them fighting with us right now. I know it for sure. 2 of them.
Well, I know there's been a serious uptick in activity in the past few weeks or so, because I mean, I just wake up feeling it. It's really, really getting intense. And that's why, like, I was like, tonight's show is like the one I've been waiting for a while.
A little bit more than usual.
No, it didn't surprise me at all. I've been kind of waiting. I said, that show's coming
you knew it was going to come.
Yeah, I just didn't know when. I didn't know when, though, and I'm sitting there listening to the show, and I'm going, all right, this is it.
Anyway, a lot of people are not going to understand, but at the same time, I don't know how many people are going to listen to the whole thing, but, as far as Getty stuff goes, this is kind of important stuff.
Well, all right. That first hour, there was really good for everybody to replay it a few times and listen to the message, what we need to be and do. And as to the Getty thing, like, when I see anything on Twitter and stuff or these thing where it says like save the children or these issues. There was a YouTube video by Cassidy about dumbs. And
one mention of the Getty.
Right. But wait a minute. So I skipped through it, fast forward, see if they ever get into anything I haven't heard. And so I comment on it, and I said right in the comment, I says, after all of that, you never once mentioned the Getty or Stephen D. Kelley. And I know him, you've interviewed him, and I think I finished by saying, let's hear more about the Bilderberger's bunkers. So I don't know if she ever saw that comment or not, but when I see it, that's what I add. Somebody says save the children, I put how occupy the Getty, Stephen D. Kelley. If people are going to keep seeing that narrative, they need to see those other two things with it, and it's having an effect. It's working. Because I'm picking up a little bit of positive content and following from it that I didn't before. So it's getting out there. And I'm sure there's people that are more active online than me that are probably seeing more of it. But, we got a real meme warrior going there with Kathleen, though, man. We got to give her a lot of moral support and prayers, man. She's knocking it.
Sorry about that. I was muted myself. I'm not sure if Kathleen can unmute herself. I had her muted just to see if you can try to unmute yourself there, Kathleen. You had some horrible sound coming from you. All right, you're there. Now she doesn't know what button to push.
That's all right, man. She's saying it online. Boy, and you can tell because like Facebook. You can tell when you're getting somewhere because Facebook gives you some bullshit or something like that, or like on Twitter, the guy making my name famous.
Can you hear me now?
Can we hear me now? Can you hear me now? Is this commercial?
Thank you, Rich, for the compliment. Yes, I love doing the memes, and I'm getting a good response. But I'm glad you mentioned about forgiving, and that's something that I had a hard time in my mind trying to process, and I think a lot of people do. And I find that to save the children, those people on there, I've tried to, you know, impress upon them that not to be talking violently, but they want to cut their heads off. They want to, you know, do terrible things to their bodily parts. I mean, it's really disgusting, kind of frightening in a way. So I'm glad you discussed that about how to forgive, and because that's the hardest part. You know, that's a natural instinct for us, is to want revenge. You know,
There's a lot of worse things that we're going to have to overlook. You know,
yeah.
right? This is just a test. This is training wheels. You know, we haven't even gotten to the horrible stuff yet, but this is like, you know, Jedi. Can you imagine if we've remembered everything? We'd be so pissed off all the time. And we're already pissed off, but anyway, you know what I mean?
Exactly why I'm happy not to remember. I mean, just the feeling alone I wake up with is more than enough.
Yeah, no doubt. Anyway, well, I've had enough, you guys, and again, we do need to try to at least get the first half of this show out there for distribution per se, because, you know, we're having a big impact, but it's almost like it's hard to believe, because we're only touching a relatively small amount of people. You know, like these shows, there's like 700,000 people that are core listeners to these things. You know, maybe 1,700 max or so, but we know every one of these shows gets pretty much 700 listeners, which tells me there's at least that many people that are hardcore following this stuff. So it's amazing that we're having the impact we're actually still having. I'd say it's Kathleen, but it's probably Bob. No, Bob, you're not doing shit, Bob. I know you're not doing shit.
Don't blame Kathleen.
What'd you say?
Hey, what's stuff?
Nah, there's a lot of
I
people
didn't hear what
doing
you
stuff.
said.
Well, huh?
I'm the
I
only
was
woman
telling
here.
everybody-
You got to blame a woman?
I said, no, I'm blaming Bob. I said, Bob's not doing shit. I said, you're doing all the work and Bob's
Oh,
not
you
doing
don't know.
shit.
I do a lot. You know what? I wish I would have had you at
Yeah.
that rally in Hollywood.
Oh, hey, there you go. Or you could have been passing out my
Well, we
stuff,
should have
Bob.
T-shirts.
We shoulda, coulda, woulda, huh?
And this
All
is a
right.
very good time to have a picnic up there because they're not guarded. I mean,
Come on, we're
there's
not gonna
very
go-
few up there.
We're not
Yeah.
going to drive up there now. Okay,
Well,
we're
Stop
Hand
moving.
out flyers.
Hand out flyers. Okay, everybody's got to come to me and pick up their flyers. I'll give them to you. All right. You can take them home. Or send me a big self-addressed stamped envelope with prepaid or whatever, you know, so that I can fill up with some stuff and you can take it and distribute it next time you see a rally. You know, seriously, you know. I mean, all I got to do is send you a couple hundred. That's all you really need.
Right, so all I have to do is send it out.
Yeah, you
Some
go.
good
I mean,
facts.
you know, like a 1/4-inch thick stack of these. Remember, I've got like 1,500 or something. I can afford, you know, if I get a couple hundred to one person who goes to one of these events where there's all these people protesting, you'll have an impact.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, you don't want to be passing out so many that they end up being thrown away. Obviously, they cost money to print. So, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Anyway. All right. Well, I guess we're pretty much done here. I should start getting rid of y'all.
Great show. And I guess we'll see you next week. Who knows what's going to be next week? Be a lot of stuff.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Don't talk to me about that COVID shit. You know, fortunately, that's still an issue. But whatever. You know, I'm not. My focus right now is a little bit broader. I'm having to look a little bit beyond the, you know, the skirmishes that we're dealing with at
masks.
the moment. No, Bob, you're missing the whole point. You're so not a
Yeah,
Jedi.
or the
I
riots
swear.
in Wisconsin.
He's so not a Jedi. Listen to this guy. He's talking about shit you see on TV.
No. I
So, what's the best way to fight the aliens and the reptiles?
What do you mean what's the best way to fight the reptiles? Just exactly. Oh, you mean after they come to the surface?
Well, yeah.
Well, when they come to the surface, you're going to have to use physical. I mean, you use everything you got, obviously. But if they're coming to you in a physical form, you know, like a third density entity or something that is came through one of those portals, it'll be flesh and blood, so to speak. That's the thing.
I got a sword.
Well, you might need something like that. We don't really know. We haven't reached that point. We do know that there's more of us than there are of them.
I saw something recently online. Somebody was talking about guns, and somebody else said, "No, I think you better be better off have a sword." And I went, "Hey, I've got a sword. That'll work."
Well, when it gets down to it, and we're skirmishing with these things. Let me tell you something about these aliens. I'll just share this with you. From what I understand, they have a bone in their appendage, their arm, like their forearm, that they can basically stick out at any time. It's sort of like they have a bone that can, be. It's like they use it as a weapon. It was the idea. And so what is very common for these guys is they will attach it. They'll modify this thing and attach some sort of a device, some sort of futuristic weapon to this bone, so that when it's retracted, it's actually inside their body, and when they want to use it, it basically pops out. Interesting, huh? Just thought you should know about that.
So lop up their arms first.
Yay.
I mean, being realistic, Stevie, like, I'm a woman, like, I know a little bit martial. I mean, even praying to God, like, I cannot survive something like that.
Well, at this point, we're going to hopefully have enough skills, either through human spiritual skills, or we will have access technology from the Getty that will hopefully be useful for us. But more than likely, we're going to see manifestation of abilities that, let's just put it that way, all those things that God gave us to be used at that one special time, that's going to be the special time. So for the benefit of all you cavers, you remember in my book when I talk about that guy asking me when I would use my skills, I said, you'll know, the time that we were given these skills to be used at a certain time for a specific reason, and when that time comes, we'll all use our skills. It will all happen all at once. All right, that's what we have to look forward to. So your Jedi training, when 3D meets 4D, 4D meets 3D, you will be using your Jedi skills. And let me just explain to you how that works. Instant manifestation. Okay, that's what we're talking about. We will be able to manifest instantly. So in other words, if we need to cause some change in reality that allows us to defeat some enemy that's present, causing something to happen, we will use our creativity to do so. If that means we need to create a monster or a weapon or make ourselves really big, we'll do what we need to do. That's the fun part of being able to alter reality. So that's what we have to look forward to. Okay? Obviously, the sooner we learn how to do that, the better it is. And ultimately, that's really where all this is going. Okay? And I expect to do it before all of you. So, ha! So with that, we're going to get out of here. All right? Get out of here.
Yeah.
All right. Adios. Hopefully I have a decent night. Here we go.
Good night.
Good night. Adios. Later on. Bob, take it easy. Get out of here. All right, everybody. Once again, let's see. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've got even more people listening than I started out. Well, we got way more people listening than I started out with, but I noticed a lot of you didn't show up until the second half of the show. Like RD said, the first half is really where the meat is, so you're going to need to go back and listen to this on YouTube. And I know I'm going to listen to it myself because, not that I like to hear myself talk, but sometimes I need to hear what you guys hear. Okay, I need to, because if you feel like something was inspirational, I need to kind of listen to it myself and see if I feel the same way. Anyway, with that, again, I'm going to thank you all, especially all of you that are listening live. And please, every day I look at the videos to see if somebody left a new comment. There's just so many people that watch the videos that don't leave a comment. Please leave a comment, say hi or something. I mean, little something, little verbiage. It's always nice, not just for me, but for the other viewers. So if you took the time to watch the video, please take the time to like it and leave a comment. All right, I really do appreciate it. Also, of course, if you want to help out economically, who knows? I mean, some of you do already, and I know it's rough, but if you can, it's LAW. No, I'm sorry. Excuse me. StephenKelley714@gmail.com. That's PayPal, of course. And if you want the book, or you want some healing, or you want to learn about becoming a Jedi, send an email to me at law17gun@aol.com. Okay? All right, so once again, my name is Stephen Kelley. This is the Stephen D. Kelley Show. We are TruthCat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. It is still August 27th. It's now 7:42 p.m. With that, I'll see you guys next week. Good night. God bless. Adios. And goodbye.